All right, thanks for having us here, guys. Our company is Blockusign, and we are an encrypted document signing company, and we're powered by the blockchain. So kind of a dense topic, but hopefully we can kind of make it digestible and kind of fun along the way. So introduce you to the team first. My name is Zach. I'm a second-year MBA student here at Vanderbilt. Finance, accounting background, and I'm focusing on studying marketing while I'm here. This is my buddy Nick. We've been friends for about 7 years now. We used to work together before I came back to school. He's a software guy, a tech guy, and he loves Bitcoin more than anybody knows. Okay, so just to ground everyone in what we're talking about today, we are talking about electronic signatures. So you all are probably familiar with companies like Blockusign, where maybe you're signing like a car lease or a rental lease, whatever it might be, and you open up an email and you click on the link and it gives you an option to sign your name. So you just type in your name and it gives you this like little faux signature. They give you a timestamp and they say, okay, that's it. Which if you're anything like me or Nick, it's like, I can't believe that that's legal and that that is actually working and that companies are using this. So that's what we're talking about today. Other things to note, there are numerous large players. So DocuSign's a big one, but there's a ton of other companies doing similar type of work. Other things to note is a huge market opportunity. So DocuSign just went public a few weeks ago for $4 billion IPO. The next day, their valuation was at $6 billion, so huge opportunity there. Okay, thanks. As far as weaknesses and why we really dislike what's kind of currently out on the market, number one is forgery. They own the whole process. So they're encrypting the signatures, they're offering the signatures, they're verifying the signatures, they're storing the signatures, and they kind of just own the entire process, which means they can forge it, they can change it, they can do whatever they want. And whether we think that companies are doing that or that they are not doing that, they certainly have the ability to do that. Number two, security. If Nick and I enter into a contract, that contract is stored on their central database, which means they can do anything they want with it. It can be altered, it can be deleted, it can be hacked, leaked, stolen, whatever it might be. So a ton of weaknesses that the blockchain alleviates, which we'll talk about as well. Number three, conflict of interest. A company like DocuSign that's US based, maybe Nick and I feel comfortable using that here on US soil, but if we were in a different country, we wouldn't necessarily want our contract to be connected to a US based company that could certainly see whatever we're reaching the agreement on. So those are the key weaknesses. We really think that it's ripe for disruption. I'll pass over to Nick, he'll walk you through the technical part of it.
All right, so enter blockchain. I'm sure you've all heard of it before. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, speculative investments. That's not what we're talking about here. We're actually talking about the underlying technology, a database. So if you look to the right over here, we're actually talking about the decentralized ledger. So this is actually the first time in the history of our planet that we have a database that isn't owned by one company, one person, one government. It's distributed across the world, it's immutable, you can trust it. Whatever happens, happens. And you can almost use the analogy that it's like the fossil record. You go down in the crust of the earth and you can see exactly what was happening to the beginning of time. Same thing happens with this database. And most people don't know you can actually store data on the blockchain, even the Bitcoin blockchain. So this is our solution. It's called Blockusign. Notice the word DocuSign.
Yeah, it's nice.
But yeah, our application actually mitigates a lot of those weaknesses that we see in DocuSign today. And this is actually a real live running product right now. We've been working on it about a year. Blockusign.co, you can go to it right now and start using it. I'm going to walk through every single one of these steps. And this was all developed in-house. I've been writing code since basically middle school, so I'm going to walk through it. So first thing we do is log in. So most of you are probably familiar with Facebook login. It tracks you all across the internet. They own your identity. This is not it. This is self-sovereign identity. You actually own this. We don't own this. You own this. We respect privacy. It's not that we won't track you. It's we physically can't track you. And we're using kind of bleeding edge technology, created by Microsoft. You probably know them. But even smaller companies you probably don't know, like Blockstack, they're really innovating in this space. And you own that identity. You can actually use it to log into hundreds of applications that are available right now. So the second step in our process is upload. So you're probably familiar with DocuSign. You sign your little lease on there. It actually goes to a central database server. and they actually own it. There's nothing saying a database administrator can look at that document. It can happen. We do storage completely separate. You actually pick your own storage bucket. When you sign up for our application, you can choose your Dropbox, you can choose your Google Drive. You can even choose, a data center in Germany protected by the military. All of these storage locations are distributed all across the world, not one entity in one spot. And we physically can't look into that. We can't touch it, we can't see it. And this really makes our data really easy to be HIPAA and GDPR compliant. The next piece we do is annotation. This is pretty similar to DocuSign. You drag your signature on there. And we're trying to be a little bit hip with some more emojis. But the real value proposition here is to attach metadata to this document or contract. I used to work in a legal department at a Fortune 50 company, and we used to have legal freeze. I know there's a law guy. So we used to have to do legal freeze letters. So if we had an important contract, you need to save every email, every conversation, every water cooler chat about that. And in our system, we actually have a chat thread right next to the document where you can store all this metadata. It's all packaged together. And we're going to support in the future some real-time collaborations. Like if you're actually dragging a signature on here, the guy in his screen can actually see that as well. The next feature that is actually brand new to the market, no one else offers this. Everyone uses Snapchat and Instagram. So you can actually sign the document with a video proof. So once, let's say Zach and I enter into a consulting agreement, we can physically get on our phones, record a little 20-second video. Yeah, I agree to write software for Zach. Zach can say, yes, I agree to pay Nick. Short little 20-second sign-off. We call this advanced digital signatures here. And last, which is really huge, this is really the culmination of all this technology, this really ties it all back to blockchain, is stamp the agreement to the blockchain. As you can see here, this is like sealing the deal, and this is what we call our digital notary service. And the really value proposition is there's no third-party intermediaries. Peer-to-peer, Zach and I can actually prove something was signed without, you don't need our company Blockusign. So what you actually do, you might think that's not secure, storing stuff on blockchain. We're actually not storing the physical data on the blockchain. This is stored in your bucket. And we basically have pointers, or in tech speak, it's a cryptographic hash. And those values are what we store publicly on a blockchain. Nobody knows what that means, but if you are the two parties involved, you can take that data and prove it without a third party. So we've been working on this for about a year. First line of code was written last April. We were featured at a blockchain keynote speech called the Voice of Blockchain in Chicago last summer. We've actually won a few awards from a few blockchain startups that are funding these really early stage ideas, and now we're here. So to get a little bit about metrics, we've got about 300 users right now. We've gotten $30,000 in application winnings so far. And if you want to read a really technical publication, it's not a light read, it's very technical. We've got a publication posted out on the Blockstack blog out there. Let me turn it back over to Zach to talk more about the business.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, cool. So you can tell Nick and I are both really excited about the product. We think it's disrupting the industry, and the industry really needs to be disrupted. But we do recognize the strengths of Blockusign. So no third party, immutable, legally enforceable, confidential. We recognize that that isn't necessarily what every consumer needs. So if you're just renting a vehicle, you don't necessarily care if it's confidential. But we've identified two key players that could benefit, and we also assume that there's some others that could also benefit. But number one, legal firms, when we think about settlements, any sort of health or lawsuits is one. Then we also see corporations. Nick and I both worked together, and we saw that they were using companies like DocuSign for everything. Pricing agreements, buyer-supplier relationships.
Yeah, even mergers and stuff.
Yeah, very, very confidential agreements that would blow your mind is out there on a central server, such as DocuSign. As far as the revenue model goes, we've got a subscription base, so a monthly rate, which is really favorable money coming in. And then as far as the costs go, super low. We've got the cost to run the servers and some development expenses, but in general, it's a pretty profitable business. To run you through some numbers, just wanted to give you kind of a highlight of what could be possible. So in this example, we just focused on law firms, recognizing that there's other potential consumers. But in this example, we have 1.34 million lawyers in the US in 2018, and that number is growing. Assuming about 15 lawyers per law firm and a 1% market share, so super small market share, we can gross $804,000 each year. Moving along to the graph on the right, assuming that we were able to get 3% market share, you're looking at 2.4 million. 10% market share is 8 million. I'm getting the cutoff.
Yeah, sorry guys.
5 minutes questions.
So, and what blockchain application are you using?
So we anchor data to Bitcoin, the public ledger, using a layer 2 solution by a company called Blockstack.
And so does that increase transaction rate?
Yeah, so if we scaled up to 2 million users, we wouldn't take down Bitcoin. So yes, we batch Merkle root hashes on whatever interval we want. So right now we're doing 2 Bitcoin transactions per day. And we could do more or less depending on how
so
we
each signature is not a transaction?
No, it's a transaction on layer 2, and then those are batched once or twice a day or whatever interval we want.
First of all, congratulations on the awards and the dollars associated with that. Could you provide more color on the existing customers you have, what you're providing them, how they're paying? And I want to make sure I understand that you're projecting $75 per firm per year. Is that the pricing model?
Yes, take this one.
Okay, so I want to put the 75 aside for a moment. Tell us about the current customers, and are they all attorneys?
Yeah, so existing customers we're bootstrapping right now, so that's totally free. Yeah, totally free right now.
Those are non-paying
And
customers.
they're in the legal profession?
Yep, most of them are very technical lawyers.
And what have you learned from that experience?
So I've talked to a bunch at a conference, and their e-discovery costs are really expensive. So their main thing is if we can basically collect this data between not even 2 peers, maybe 100 people or 10 people, it saves them so much money just in being able to get that data. But yeah, other than that, it's really just security is our real big value proposition.
One final comment. If I said to you, just wetting my finger and sticking it in the air, that $75 belies the value of what you have there, how do you react to that? I mean,
well, that's if you're an enterprise.
$75 is 1 day of coffee grounds in the typical law firm, right?
Oh yeah, no, that's for small. We have a best better pricing.
But I thought you were averaging the firms across the nation taking 1% market share, and it was $75 per firm, and I'm having a hard time thinking about something that is basically $6 a month for a law firm.
So that's the per month fee. So these left 3 are kind of similar to current pricing models out there today.
So if you're an enterprise, you're gonna contact us for a price.
You're not paying $50 for an enterprise. So that's, to your point, considerably more valuable service. And then as far as the $75, it's a tough projection to just say, on average, we're going to have some paying less, some paying at the enterprise rate. We'll call it 75, but we recognize that that's a very hard number to justify.
So Docusign is going to be about the same?
Yes, yep.
And
Yeah,
does
very
anybody
similar.
understand blockchain well enough to want to switch yet? Are you early on it?
We're definitely early, and we're definitely pitching it. I think the first huge hack on a big site like Docusign is going to make a lot of attention come to us. But that's why we're focusing on very technical lawyers and working to that mass scale.
Yeah. And we recognize.
You should start hacking Docusign.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got I mean, you're.
Here, let me pause the video.
Far enough,
quick.
You're far enough ahead that, I mean, I just used .loop last week, and I had, I'm in software development, didn't think anything about it, just blah, 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 it was easy, thank God, I didn't get lost, because DocuSign's terrible. But how do you move from the technical law firm, or is the technical law firm significant enough pool from this? How do you educate the market to move this from maybe a nice to have to a must have?
Yeah, I think every day I turn on the news, I see a hack, a privacy breach. I think generationally, the next generation cares more than our generation, and we're going to look back, like back in the 80s, everyone smoked. They didn't think about it. I think the same thing about data privacy. Next generation will be like, I'm not giving my data to Facebook. So it's a little bit of education, but it's really knowing the next generation is going to be really into this technology and need it and demand it, really.
I can add on to that too. We've recognized that's a concern, and we have to get it to the point where it's so user-friendly that they don't even have to know what blockchain is.
Yeah.
That's the key.
How would you sell it?
Encrypted document signing, so really it's secure.
I mean, how do you acquire customers?
Yeah, so that's where we're at now. This is kind of the fun part. So the software is to the point where you wouldn't want to necessarily put it in front of the customer, but it's really, really darn close.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a combination. We were talking about that as well. It's speaking at conventions that are tailored towards blockchain discussions, but then also bootstrapping and getting like feet on the ground and talking to these people. What do you need, and how do we fill those needs? But it's certainly a combination of connections, relationships, and
probably targeting some
conventions.
marketing with some advertising, some SEO, that type of stuff. People somehow find you, even if you don't do SEO. I haven't done SEO yet, and I've got 300 users already. So
Over what span of time?
since December.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.